Right now, support continues to grow for two longtime Campbell High School coaches now forced out. We're going to talk to one of the coaches after members of the community took their case to the Cobb County School Board. Also, one major metro Atlanta intersection is about to roll out some new enhancements to make your drive just a little bit easier. And what makes you happy? Performing acts of kindness or a bigger paycheck? We'll get your take. This is The Take. Hello and welcome. I'm Chesley McNeil, and this is The Take, where we go above and beyond the headlines and we look at the how and why stories are impacting you and your community. We invite experts on to get their expertise and their takes, and we also try to have a little bit of fun as well. Let's begin.
How they were removed is a shame, and they deserve better.
They have spent their careers impacting the lives of thousands of children in this community.
A show of community support prompts a full investigation into what led to two longtime Campbell High School coaches ousted from their positions with no warning. Randy McClure and James Gwynn spent decades coaching at Campbell High School. Early this week, both men told 11Alive they were informed that the basketball season they just coached would be their last, and their positions as educators would not be renewed next year. Last night, those who know the coaches tried to convince the Cobb County School Board that they should not have been dismissed.
They are positive Black role models in the school system, which is rare. They are father figures to many fatherless children in this community and in this school system. As a player, in the Campbell basketball program, it was more than just sports.
Well, following that public comment, Cobb County School Superintendent Chris Ragsdale said he had questions himself about how the situation was handled. He launched a review after hearing about the outpouring of support, adding that if any actions need to be taken after the investigation, he would consider doing it. Here joining me now live is one of the coaches involved in the situation, Coach James Gwynn. Good morning to you, Coach.
Good morning.
Glad you're here. You know, he's going to be joining us without audio, without his visual, so you can hear him. And so we're glad that you're taking time out to join us. Let's start with last night. You were there. You saw that show of support. How did it make you feel?
It was overwhelming, Chesley. Just the community appreciation. It's just made myself, and I speak for Coach McClure as well, but it just made both of us feel very, very good. Through this whole process, the amount of support we've gotten is just something that we couldn't imagine. So we really appreciate the community for that.
Now, you guys have been there for a long time. You, I think, 40 years, correct?
Well, I've been there 30 years.
30
Coach
years,
McClure's
okay.
been there 39 years. So both of us, that's a long time.
That's a long time. When you first heard this news, how were you really shocked by it?
I was.
Mm-hmm.
I was shocked and disappointed. Just had no idea this was coming. It was like two gut punches. You're losing, your staff job and your coaching job at the same time. And boy, it was just completely unexpected. It set me back.
Did the district last night explain why this happened? Did they give any explanation as to why, or were they kind of shocked as well, like the superintendent?
No, they really didn't give a reason why it happened, but they did talk about a review being performed, and there was going to be a full investigation looking into some of the details of how it happened and how it was presented to us. But they didn't do they didn't really say too much about why it happened.
If the school board comes back and they say this was handled incorrectly, which I think a lot of us feel like it was, what's the outcome you would like to see?
Well, at this point, I think we're looking forward to the most favorable outcome as to being reinstated in our positions and having the choice to do what we love to do, which is coach youngsters. So I think that's what we're hoping happens as a result of this, maybe in the final decision. They haven't told us yet what's going to happen, but we're hoping that is something that we can resume what we choose to do.
So you would come back, even after they decided to try to let you go, you would come back?
I would.
Okay, all right. I did hear you say you wouldn't spend another 10, 15 years there. What would be the ideal?
Well, I'm not sure. Certainly it's not going to be, we're closer to being finished than when we started, but I would just say take it, year to year and just use my judgment as far as talking with my family and my wife. She's been with me as long as I've coached. So, but just really being able to exit, on our terms and go out. I would love to be able to coach and know that it's my last year while I'm coaching.
Right.
And not to not be able to do that this year was just devastating. if it's going to be my last year, I want to know that this is my last year and be able to kind of go out that way.
And certainly you've earned that, Coach. After 30 years of coaching, your name is on the building. It seems like they would give you that kind of a courtesy. Would you go elsewhere and coach?
I don't think I'd do that this time. I'd always planned to retire as a Campbell man, and that's something that, starting something new somewhere else is not something I had really thought about.
Gotcha. Well, Coach, thank you for joining us. That's A.B. Thank you for all the lives that you've touched in your coaching. I understand that you have one of the best defensive schemes in all of the area, and a lot of folks are looking to steal your scheme as soon as you decide you're going to step down.
Well, thank you very much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
All right, take care. All right, right now, travel nightmare. A large fire has knocked out power to London's Heathrow Airport and forced one of the world's busiest airports to shut down for the day. We know at least 1,300 flights have been impacted by this, leading to diversions to other airports or even having to turn back around. Right now, the impact here in Atlanta is minimal, with only a handful of flights to London being disrupted so far. Family and friends will say goodbye, their final goodbyes to coach and teacher Gary Jones today. Jones's body was recovered in Lake Oconee after going missing early in February after a boating incident with his fiancee. Funeral services will be held at Elizabeth Baptist Church at 11 a.m. All right, time now for a look at our forecast. And yesterday was the first day of spring, and boy, it was cold. It felt like wintertime. Feels like wintertime this morning. A lot of folks coming into the newsroom with coats on this morning as temperatures started out in the 30s, but we're going to rebound. We'll mild up a little bit this afternoon, with those temperatures getting back up to the 60s, mid-60s. That's where we should be for this time of year. 70s over the weekend. It's going to be a nice weekend with plenty of sunshine around both Saturday and Sunday. Late on Sunday, clouds will work in ahead of a front that's going to come through and try to bring us some rain. Some much needed rainfall as well. You're looking at scattered showers around on Monday morning as we're going back to work and back to school. 68 will be the high temperature behind that front, and then we rebound once again. The sunshine comes back to us on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and our temperatures by then will be back into the 70s. I think we'll stay in the 70s for much of this week. Don't go anywhere. You're watching The Take. We're back right after this. All right, welcome back to the show. The Justice Department is facing new deadlines today to fully answer questions about the deportation flights of alleged Venezuelan gang members. Joining us now is NBC Washington correspondent Alice Barr, who always gives us good insight on everything happening out there in D.C. Let's start off with this, Alice, with that deadline that's approaching, and talk about this judge that's now getting involved in the situation.
Good morning. Yeah, this federal judge, Michael Boasberg, has been the one who from the beginning tried to block these 3 deportation flights that were set to take off from the U.S. to El Salvador, to a mega prison in El Salvador. And they were carrying migrants from Venezuela that the Trump administration has said are gang members. Now, there have been a number of family members and people connected to the people that were deported that say that that's not correct and have said that they don't have criminal records. But that was certainly the foundation for the Trump administration having these people deported. And they did it under this obscure 1798 law that doesn't require due process in times of war. There's a question about whether we are at a time of war, but President Trump says that an invasion by migrants, as he frames it, is a war. So this judge tried to block these flights from taking off. They did, however, take off. And now he's been since then trying to get a detailed timeline of when they took off compared to when he issued his ruling in order to determine if the Trump administration defied a court order. And you can understand the questions around that. A lot of people raising concerns about whether the executive branch is following, checks and balances from the judicial branch. So far, the Justice Department has not been willing to offer that detailed timeline and answer those questions. And that judge has called the response so far woefully insufficient and has given them another deadline today to come back and more fulsomely answer those questions. We heard just yesterday from Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, saying that she believes it's egregious that a single district judge is trying to tell the President of the United States who he can and cannot deport from our soil. So that is their position on this.
Gotcha. All right. So on to the Department of Education. President Trump signed an executive order to dramatically downsize the agency. Has there been any immediate fallout that you know of?
So there's certainly pushback to this, and this is something we've been speaking about, that we knew this was coming. President Trump has signaled for quite some time that he wants to eliminate the Department of Education. So this executive order that he signed yesterday is aimed at, in fact, shutting down the agency. That is not something he can do without Congress officially getting involved. And what we've been hearing from Democrats and even some Republicans in the Senate specifically on Capitol Hill is that they're not going to sign on. This is something that would need, in the Senate at least, some Democratic lawmakers to agree. President Trump said yesterday that he hopes that Democrats will agree, and his administration has been trying to kind of explain their reasoning here, that they believe that moving educational authority to the states is going to cut bureaucracy and is going to get decision-making closer to the ground, to the students that need it. That's something that some state education leaders agree with and have been welcoming. But so far, it doesn't seem like they're making headwinds on that. What they have done, though, is to already slash close to half of the staff at the Department of Education. And so that in itself is sort of gutting and undercutting the ability of the agency to function. And they could continue to do that, though they are promising that core functions, including oversight of investigations of discrimination complaints, including special education, including financial aid, that those core functions will continue and either be sent to the state level or potentially to some other federal agencies for oversight.
Gotcha. All right, Alice, we understand Elon Musk is scheduled to visit the Pentagon today for a meeting and a briefing that includes China. What do we know about this? And is it unusual for a private citizen to be in meetings like this?
Yeah, for sure. And this has been developing pretty quickly throughout the day today, throughout this morning. Elon Musk is scheduled to visit the Pentagon today for a meeting and briefing, including on China. That is according to 3 defense officials to NBC News. They could not confirm New York Times reporting that part of the briefing would be on U.S. military plans for any potential war that might break out with China, and they're citing 2 U.S. officials. President Trump has now twice overnight and early this morning fiercely denied that reporting. He says that China is not going to be a part of this briefing at all today, though NBC News has heard from sources again saying that there will be some briefing on China, but they say that it's not going to be classified. But these kinds of plans are certainly some of the most sensitive information that the Pentagon deals with, and so there are real questions about sort of the reasons for having Elon Musk involved in that and potential conflicts of interest with his business interests in China.
All right. Thanks a lot, Alice. Really appreciate it. Have a great weekend. All right, it's going to be another busy week in Georgia politics as state legislature session comes to a final week. It comes to the final weeks. The federal employees still feeling impacts from the new White House policies. Zach Merchant, my friend, an 11Alive political team and co-host of the Georgia Vote, joining us now to help break all this stuff down. And Zach, vote is coming up Sunday right after Meet the Press. What should we watch out for?
Yeah, you know, I feel like a broken record. Every week we say it is a packed show, but that is because there is always so much happening in Georgia politics. There's a lot to get through, but I think a good place to start is this. You have heard us talk a lot about tort reform over the past few months of this legislative session. It is Governor Brian Kemp's top marquee priority for this session. And fewer than 24 hours ago, it took a major step forward. Yesterday, the State House passed a version very narrowly of Governor Kemp's bill. And this is a bill, we should point out, we've had this conversation before on the show, but it's worth repeating here. Supporters say tort reform, as they call it, if passed, would lower insurance premiums and protect businesses from what they see as frivolous lawsuits. But opponents dispute that. They'd say it would not lower insurance premiums, and what it would do is prevent some people who are legitimately hurt from recovering all that they are owed from businesses who were negligent, did not protect them. It would limit what they can recover in court. But right now, the status of this bill, it took a major step forward yesterday in the House.
So you said it narrowly passed the House. Do you think that's going to help it to become a law?
You know, we never want to say for sure, or, you know, you get the crystal ball out, and the only real law of gravity in Georgia politics is that nothing is a done deal. It is until it is an entirely done deal. That being said, this bill is now out of the House. It goes back to the Senate. The Senate already this session passed a similar version of the bill. And now the House added some amendments, so that's why the Senate has to take another look at it. But if you assume that there is still the same majority that passed that earlier version of the bill in the Senate, that they still exist now, then you probably could expect that the path forward from here on out for Governor Kemp's tort reform priority looks pretty smooth, though again, you never know until it's all said and done.
Oh yeah, you can't say it's all done yet. Okay, all right, what else are you watching for this week?
Well, there's so much going on here, and we say it so much on this show. You know, what happens in Georgia, it's not just a statewide story, it becomes a national story. And what happens at the national level, it is always impacting what is going on right here in Georgia. Case in point, we talk with the state agriculture commissioner, Tyler Harper. He's a Republican. We talked to him in an extended, exclusive one-on-one interview this week about how national tariff policy may be impacting Georgia farmers. We should note, it's Ag Week here in Georgia. It's a huge driver of our economy. We talk about the impact of that industry on our state, and we also ask him about the status of bird flu. It's something that we've been watching for months now in the state and around the country, and it is also impacting the prices that Georgians and others are seeing when they go to the grocery store. Egg prices, you've heard about it so much. We ask him what's being done to lower those prices for consumers at the store.
I'm sure he's not the only person thinking about national policy right now, right?
Absolutely. You know, we've talked about these tariffs. We're talking about these tariffs with Ag Commissioner Tyler Harper, but these tariffs that President Trump has been pushing to implement, they come at the same time he is also moving to aggressively shrink the size of the federal government through a series of nationwide layoffs that we should point out, and Alice Barr has been doing a great job of tracking this as well on this show. There's a lot of legal dispute over whether and how all of these layoffs can be implemented. But when it comes down to it, there are real people at the bottom end of these policy-making decision chains. Faith Jesse, my co-host on the show this week, she's sitting down with several people who work at the Atlanta-based CDC who say they were impacted. They lost their jobs as a result of this government, some would call it downsizing, some would call it a mass layoff effort. You're going to hear their experiences, what they've gone through on this week's show.
All right, a lot to unpack there. Zach, as always, thanks for joining us on the show, and thanks for giving us that little teaser. We got to watch the show. It comes on this Sunday at 11 o'clock right here on 11Alive Plus. Make sure you check it out. Thanks a lot, Zach. All right, folks, don't go anywhere. Plenty more show for you coming up. This is The Take on 11Alive Plus. We're back right after this. Welcome back. If you're needing to drive around DeKalb County, heads up. There's a big change coming to a major intersection that may impact your commute. Here to help break down all the navigation for us is friend of the show and GDOT spokeswoman, Natalie Dale. Hello, Natalie. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me. It's my favorite way to spend a Friday morning.
That's what I'm talking about. All right, so where are we talking here? What's the intersection?
So as you know, we have been working diligently on this I-85 at North Druid Hills intersection for several years. One of the first movements we had in this area was that complete shutdown we had on North Druid Hills to rebuild that old bridge over Peachtree Creek. Then we had the Arthur M. Blank Children's Healthcare Facility open with CHOA there. So we had a lot of work surrounding that. So this is the third, if you will, big movement that's happened with this larger project. And it is a displaced left turn lane. It's kind of a mouthful. So as we do at GDOT, we use letters. It's a DLT intersection, not a BLT, a DLT intersection. And what it's going to do is for that traffic that goes westbound over I-85. So if you're traveling westbound on North Druid Hills over I-85 to go south on I-85, right now what happens is you get stuck in a very lengthy backup on that bridge to take that signalized left-hand turn to go 85 south. Well, this new movement, it's amazing. Really, it's just great engineering. There is a new facility, kind of a bridge built beside the bridge, a new lane system. And those who are taking that westbound to southbound movement will have a signalized intersection well before the bridge, hundreds of feet before the bridge, that will cross them onto that new bridge. Over the traffic, there will be a signal. And once you're on that new bridge, you have a seamless transition to drive left onto I-85 southbound. So it's kind of, it's a bit like half of a divergent diamond, but it really cuts down on that left-hand turn movement in front of oncoming traffic. A picture's worth 1,000 words. We have lots of videos up on our social media sites. So check that out if it sounds a little confusing. A little bit.
I was going to ask you now, is it a single lane going up over the bridge and then to the left, or it will be multiple lanes?
Right. So it'll be that single lane that will travel from North Druid Hills, shifting left onto that new bridge.
Gotcha.
And then from there, there's no conflicting traffic. So that new lane travels parallel with the bridge and then directly left onto I-85 southbound. So right now, you would have to go over the bridge. You would have to stop. You would have to wait for that left-hand signal, and you've got oncoming traffic.
Right.
So we're cutting down on that chance that there could be a T-bone accident at an intersection because of that oncoming traffic. Once you have safely gotten onto that new lane system, from there, there's no conflicting traffic. You simply take that bridge left onto I-85 southbound. So a great way to safely move the large volume of traffic trying to take that left from westbound to southbound movement.
Yeah, sounds like some benefits there. Are there any other areas that could be used for that? Try to get around it,
or do that? Well, this is a pretty specific movement, if you will, which is why this design is part of the larger interchange project, because we have so many cars trying to do this. Yes, you can take a different road than North Druid Hills, but it's a pretty direct route. And so to do that, when we look at rebuilding these sort of out of date intersections, the primary thing we look at is, where are the people going? Well, the people were going westbound over the bridge to southbound on 85. So what we've done is sort of build a system that addresses this very specific need. Other things coming with this interchange, it's a braided ramp system. We've had the signal that's opened at the CHOA facility. We've had the bridge. So by the end of 2025, if weather is in our favor, this entire interchange project will be wrapped up.
Gotcha. All right, so we know March Madness is upon us. I know you know that as well. We got the semifinals that will be coming here to Atlanta, and we know that it's already crowded around that area. Do you guys get active when we know big major events are coming here and ways to help people navigate around the roads?
Well, we work very closely with the city of Atlanta when there are big events in the area. We try to make sure that people are aware of those. For example, when we had Beyonce and Taylor Swift downtown at the same time, we get very involved in that. We have the Super Bowl, when we have some of these big, the World Cup is coming. So we have our finger on the pulse. It takes a very good communication with the city of Atlanta because a lot of those are local roads. But we try to make sure that we're doing what we can to keep those interstates flowing, make sure that our hero operators are out there helping motorists that may not be from the area. As we know, Auburn will be playing in the championship this year. So I know I will be busy down there rooting on my team. So if you have a plan to get down for March Madness, make sure that you are before you go. We say it with everything. If you're going to any big event in Atlanta, know before you go. Traffic can turn on a dime.
Gotcha. So I take it you didn't pick Georgia, so your bracket should be in pretty good shape, right?
I did not pick Georgia. My bracket is not in good shape, but I did not pick Georgia.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Well, hopefully Auburn will do what you said they will do, because they're on mine. So
I know. Well, War Eagle.
All right. Thanks a lot, Natalie. Have a great weekend. All right, folks. Don't go anywhere. We're back right after this. All right, before you get into your weekend, here's my final take. Today is Friday and payday, two things that make people very happy. It's also the day that a new study surfaced saying that performing acts of kindness will make you happier than receiving a higher salary. Yeah, I had to think about that thing for a minute. I know you're thinking about it as well. Here's what they did. They conducted a study and they gave people small amounts of money, like $2 to $5, and told them to spend it on themselves or someone else. Well, the experiment concluded with people spending the money on someone else. Here's my take. Most people were so happy to receive the extra cash, they decided to share it with somebody else. Yeah, probably with hopes to get more money. I did an unscientific poll in my newsroom. 9 out of 12 people opted for the higher salary. That should tell you something. Have a great weekend, folks. Payday. Enjoy.